Okay, welcome everybody. Today is the first episode of our Active House podcast, and so we are going to be talking about Active House, which is a new movement, a global movement around the world, basically healthy buildings for people and the planet. Healthy buildings for people and the planet. And before we get too deep into the technology and all that, I wanted to find out first and foremost, okay, two things I want to know. Okay, I'm Brian Bernasconi. I work as a real estate broker. It was Francesco and I. Francesco's my co-host here. And we were on a hike at the Pinnacles in California, and we started talking about this. And as soon as you launched into the conversation, I was just fascinated. Yep. Because we live in California, people are talking. I'm in the housing industry. We're talking about this kind of stuff all the time. Correct. And so I was just riveted, honestly. And so what I wanted to know were two things, first of all. One is, what is Active House, right? I mean, I can say it's healthy buildings for people and the planet. But what is it really? And two, who's the audience for this podcast? Who are we trying to talk to? And I know we've already had this conversation offline, but I kind of want to review that stuff again. So I'm going to introduce the people that I'm sitting at the table with. My friend and co-host, Francesco Marchesi, who also owns Messana Hydronic Technologies.
That's correct. I'm one of the founders of the Messana Hydronic Technologies.
Yeah, right, one of the founders. Yes. We've got David Knight here. And David, tell us where you are, what your company is.
So I work for a small, humble mechanical engineering company called the Monterey Energy Group.
Monterey Energy Group.
Monterey Energy Group. I founded the company 39 years ago. We do full mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering, mainly on residential projects. We do full solar design and full energy compliance and energy modeling of mostly custom homes, a lot of multifamily, and some small commercial buildings.
You're probably busy.
We've been busy for 39 years.
Yeah. You do a lot of things, and a lot of the things that you do, people want.
Luckily.
Yeah.
And it's also what we're interested in, and we believe that Active House is a way of kind of bringing everything together. And
hold that thought one second. I want to introduce Jacob. Jacob Staub. Will you tell us a little bit about where, because you came to visit us from the East Coast, so give me a little bit of background about who you are.
Yeah, I'm from a small mechanical and plumbing engineering firm up in Portland, Maine called Ripcord Engineering. I'm the chief technical officer of the operation, and my partner, Sonia, she's the CEO, and we do stuff similar to what David described.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those same things?
Not all, because they're more advanced out here in California. But some similar, plumbing and mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Now we can launch into what is Active House. And David, I know you started to go on that, and I know you have a good answer for that. I mean, you've got, and it's layered.
Right. So Francesco approached me about a year ago and said he was considering, and along with Jacob, to start a USA chapter of Active House. And I had heard of Active House in Europe, and I knew the basics. And Francesco can attest, it took me 3 seconds to say, I'm all in, 100% all in, and for various reasons. Mainly that Active House is a building evaluation, a kind of a building philosophy. And I knew that the 100 to 2 to 3 or 400 architectural firms that we work for would love the concept because it allows the architect complete freedom of design, but at the same time focuses them on things that are truly important to the occupant, their comfort, their health, the overall efficiency, and things like that. The Active House motto, building better homes for people and planet, it really does focus on the person, and that's what was one of the most appealing things to me.
So essentially what you're saying, or what I'm hearing is that you're building buildings with the inhabitants in mind first and foremost.
Exactly. What Active House does is it basically envisions the owner of the house sitting in their chair in their living room. And based on their 5 senses, is that person truly comfortable, truly healthy? It looks at daylighting, because, humans love a lot of natural light. It looks at comfort, what exactly, with your skin temperature, what you're feeling, what exactly is the comfort? What you're smelling, indoor air quality, what you're hearing, acoustics. all of those things, if it's done properly, will make for a great human environment. And Active House, to my knowledge, was the only building evaluation, building philosophy, building certification program that really focused on the human inside the building, at the same time giving architects complete design freedom. And that's what was most appealing to me.
Yeah. Jacob, can you give me your version of what Active House is?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like that, right? So, I mean, we came to Active House for kind of a different reason. Like when we started, when Ripcord Engineering started, we were starting on the energy efficiency side of the equation. So we figured we can sell people on energy efficiency. You know, who doesn't want energy efficiency? As a matter of fact, all the clients, and David will probably tell you this, 9.9 out of 10 will come to you and tell you we think about efficiency in everything we do. But by the end of that, all that, you know, when you finally start talking to people and get down to the core of what it is they want comfort. The efficiency, and so efficiency, you know, in an engineering sense, you know, the way Active House works is kind of the icing on the cake. So you can get to that point by really focusing on comfort, and you can really get people engaged in that and emotionally invested in that. And so they will make investments for their comfort, whereas they will not make investments for efficiency. That's driven from that's driven from code level stuff at the national level. Right?
Efficiency is driven from code level.
Yeah, I mean it's the lunge that you don't want to do. It's the burger that you shouldn't eat that much, but you do. You know, it's the guys looking out for your health. The doctor visit that you make, and the guy says, "Well, you could exercise and eat better, or I can give you this pill." Yeah. And what do people do? They take the pill.
Yeah, right. So every time.
Active House is kind of an approach for you to take the pill but still get the good stuff.
And so the differentiation, in my opinion, and tell me if I'm wrong, would be cost. I mean, is that what generally drives people's choices to either invest in this type of technology or not?
So,
or is it ignorance? I mean, or just lack of information?
So normally when you approach energy efficiency with a client, the client will say they'll want to know payback.
And how does payback get quantified? How are they calculating payback?
So you're looking at a reference design, you know, and it uses so much energy X, and you can tell the client, well, we could do better and get to energy Y, but you're going to have to spend an incremental amount of money.
And what you mean by that X and Y are basically how much it costs me every month to run my house or various aspects of my house.
No, first cost. So it's like if you
cost.
If you go, so as an easy example, you go to the car dealership, and there's, you know, you're looking at a particular model of car, and they have all kinds of different models. They have the crappy shitbox Golf that's got no power, and then they got the Francesco GTI, yeah, exactly, with the honking turbo. And Francesco has to make the decision whether he's going to buy the crap box, right, you know, standard model, or whether he's going to pony up the additional money to get the GTI power, the feel.
And they chose the GTI, right?
Of course.
And the GTI was more expensive to buy and costs you more to run, right? It burns more fuel,
especially in these days.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it's.
And I don't mean to be focusing on cost. I guess I just want to understand.
So normally a client will want to know, look, if I put in, and this is where the car, you know, thing diverges a little bit, the example I just gave. So the client will want to know, okay, I put the additional money down on the table. How long does it take me to get that back?
So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
So especially where Jacob's in Maine, and let's say the client is considering triple glazed windows versus standard double pane windows.
Yeah.
There's a difference in cost. But we can also quantify how many kilowatt hours of electricity it's going to save, and then that's how you derive your payback. And what's interesting about today is the price of everything that uses fuel is going up. I mean, the cost of fuel is going way up,
right.
So the paybacks tend to be much better. In California, where we are, everybody asks, you know, what's the payback for a solar electric system? Well, the good news is solar electric is pretty reasonably cost, and our utilities, as every Californian knows, are incredibly expensive.
Right.
So typically, we're looking at a 5-year payback. We're looking at a 20% return on investment. And as I always like to say, my favorite solar client is a hard-nosed right-wing accountant because they can do the math. They understand how valuable compared to the grid, how great a payback you have for solar electric. It's a very easy sale in California. Tougher sale in other markets because their electric rates are cheaper. But in California, it's ridiculously cost-effective.
Right. You mentioned double glazed versus triple glazed. Is the difference there? I mean, it's something that you can easily calculate and quantify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh.
I mean, you send the quote to the window company, they come back with the delta in cost, and then both Jacob and I do very sophisticated energy modeling of homes.
Yeah.
We can predict, this is going to save X amount of gas or X amount of electricity. Here's the cost of electricity. Here's your payback. With one additional tidbit is sometimes that triple glazed windows really helps the comfort of the space. And again, active house is all about comfort.
Right.
So there may be another factor because when you're sitting next to a triple glazed window on a very cold day, you'll be more comfortable than if it was double pane.
Yeah. Right.
And one more thing, just one more quick tidbit.
Yeah.
It's also acoustically might be better. And as our communities become more dense, the acoustics, which is a big part of active house, comes into play there too.
Yeah. Right. Because they cancel out more sound from the outside.
Right. If you live on a busy street or next to an airport or train station, the triple glazed windows is the greatest investment you've ever had. And
Right.
the fact it saves energy is nice. The payback may not be fantastic, but there may be other issues.
Right. And more,
What I can
ahead.
see here on this radar active house, I can see the comfort, and that there are 4 different categories. David mentioned 3 of them: thermal environment, indoor air quality, acoustical, and also the one also very important is the daylighting.
Yeah.
So
I want to go through those again slowly if we can.
yes,
Let's just. I just want to name them off. The thermal environment is that, and these are in no particular order, right?
Well, they are in a particular order.
Are
in
they?
That, right. So, like if you were to look at what maybe Passive House would do, on the outer ring, you've got the 3 categories. The outer ring, the one that Passive House would put on the top of the circle would be like energy.
Mm-hmm.
The Active House is different in that they put comfort on the top.
I see. So it's broken up into
Three.
almost half.
Right.
I see. Got it.
So
Okay.
you got 3 main categories, and then you have subcategories inside there.
Got it. I'm going to name those 3 main categories. You've got comfort, you've got energy, and you've got environment.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
And so I'm seeing them broken out here in the comfort section.
Yep.
You've got daylight, thermal environment, indoor air quality, and acoustic quality.
Right.
Yep.
These are things that people just don't. I find that people just don't think about this stuff. They think
No.
more about
But they want it.
the dollars and cents of what's it gonna cost, what's it gonna save.
And so
This is what makes Active House unique.
Active House is unique in that they break out these things that people they know what they want. They know they want to feel good, but this gives them a structure to talk about those things.
Right.
And it gives the professional a structure to help people value those things. So no matter what you're doing, if you're going to do better than code, you're going to have to make an incremental investment. That's the way it goes. And so it's all about trying to characterize what it costs and what it means to you.
Yeah.
To make that delta, that increment acceptable.
This is why I keep wanting, and I know you guys. We'll get to this in a second, but who's the audience? And David, you and I talked a little bit about that, but let's not get there yet. I want to get into wait. I want to go in the energy category.
Yeah.
We've got energy. Is it demand? I'm not wearing glasses.
Yeah, energy demand.
Energy demand.
Yeah.
Primary energy
Performance.
and energy
Supply.
Right.
Okay, so performance, demand, and supply. And then in the environment category, we've got 2 subcategories. And one of you read those for me that you're wearing glasses?
Fresh water consumption
Okay.
and sustainable construction.
Freshwater consumption and sustainable construction.
Correct.
Okay, I just kind of wanted to get that on the table before we start talking about who the audience is, because I think that's I don't know if it's every bit important, but as we've been talking about putting this podcast together, it's been a little bit of a conversation because I come from a background of not knowing any of this, and yet I deal with human beings who walk into homes and say, for whatever reason, it's not right, or it is right, or we love this house, or we don't love this house. We love this neighborhood, we don't love this neighborhood. And I think a lot of that could be triggered by these elements, and they just don't know it.
Oh, they're almost certainly triggered by those elements.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not neighborhood, not so much, of course, but
No, I lived in a neighborhood once that and had some nearby apartment buildings, and those guys tended to drive louder cars. I'm saying,
yeah.
and so when they would roll by at night,
hey, loud pipes save lives.
and wake up neighbors.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So I think that triple glazed windows would have helped me out in that house.
Oh.
Honestly, it would have helped me to not be as irked by that house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not the neighbors.
But they would have driven by, and I wouldn't have known that. I
Right,
might
the
have
house.
known that they were there less than I knew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so David, who you were going to start, and I cut you off. Who do you think we're talking to?
I think the audience, for me, I work for 250 of the very best architectural firms in the state, and they built the absolute coolest, wildest homes you could ever imagine, dream homes. And so I know there's a market or an interest there because they're always trying to do better for their clients. They're always trying to prove, or they want to know they can prove comfort, prove health in terms of indoor air quality, and et cetera, prove sustainability, zero net energy, that sort of thing. So I know there's an audience there. I absolutely believe there's an audience amongst spec builders, tract home builders, condo builders, single family. There's absolutely a market there as a way of differentiating themselves from other builders, their product from other products.
Meaning that they can advertise that or market that to the consumer.
Absolutely. And then finally, the consumer, upon looking up and going, oh, great, this house has X level of comfort, the highest level of comfort, the very best indoor air quality. I'm zeroing out my energy bills, which is going to save on my my costs going forward. All those things are, again, back to acoustics. As we become more dense as communities, the acoustics is incredibly valuable. And so that's what the Active House Evaluation Program does, is it allows us to quantify items that were very, very important. Think of indoor air quality in COVID. And, it's all of a sudden, providing that safe indoor space is critically important.
Yeah.
This helps us do it.
Yeah. No, I live in a big house. It's got 21-foot ceilings and no partitions and hardwood floors. And the acoustics are horrible. I don't like the acoustics. I never knew until I started talking to you guys. But, that's a great example of acoustically.
Like this office right now, you see this back wall here?
Yeah.
This is a perfect wall, basically designed for absorb the sound. It's an acoustical wall.
Is it also
exactly
a radiant heating wall?
and cooling? Yes. So
it does two things,
three things.
Three things.
Yeah. Actually, four, because it looks very nice. Four things as well.
This is based on the opinion of one Italian Masana owner.
Yeah. Well, and for certain people, it does look very nice, right? I think the aesthetic is not for everybody, but it could be for a lot of people.
Very nice.
But let's name the other things that it's doing. It's acoustically sort of dampening the sound.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I can see that it's got tubes running in and out of it, so I'm guessing it has radiant heat.
It's an hydraulic system, so running hot and cold water through these pipes.
So it can heat and cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And the third thing then is energy?
Yeah.
Yes.
It
will be energy for sure, because it's a radiant.
Yeah.
So the entire office here, we don't have any sort of regular HVAC. We don't blow cold or hot air. We are surrounded by radiant system right now.
Yeah.
Ceiling and also the wall.
Maybe in a future episode, we'll get into Delta T and the commanding heights of Delta T.
Definitely.
We'll leave it at that. It'll be a teaser.
Another episode.
We'll talk to you about if you want to come back.
It sounds like a Marvel Comics.
Yes, Delta T.
Yeah.
It's like Superman.
Yeah.
Just to make a point on Francesco's point, right? This stuff that he's pointing to, it's better.
What do you mean by better?
It's better. It's more comfortable. It's more silent.
Yeah.
You have a better living quality, right? And so because it's better, it takes incremental investment. And so you need, if the person didn't care about comfort or looks or sound quality, they come in and they'd look at that and they'd say, why in God's name would I spend $1 more for that when I could just have an air system blowing all over me? Right. So
because they don't know the difference.
Right, they don't know the difference.
Because they don't know that
Correct.
one actually is better, which is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I told you guys, and I'm going to tell you the story here again, but these folks that moved to Pennsylvania, and they're very California-minded. They have the resources to be able to make that incremental investment.
Right.
And they went to their designer and their contractor and said, we want radiant heat. And then the guys out there in Philly said, yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, sure.
Nobody out here knows how to do it, and nobody's going to be able to service it. And so they basically just had to abandon the idea, which is too bad. And this is why we want to kind of point it out to people that these technologies exist.
Right, and within the Active House framework, we can quantitatively show levels of comfort with radiant heat and without radiant heat, and people can see graphically, where they are on a scale in terms of how comfortable they're going to be. It may not be for everyone, but I think when people see how much more comfortable they'll definitely consider it.
And these people would have loved, I mean, they're going to watch this episode and just kick themselves that they didn't know you before they started the project in Philly.
Well, and both Jacob and both of our companies my company's designed over 8,000 radiant floor heating systems. I live in Carmel, which is probably the most densely radiant floor heated market in the country. For a couple reasons. Radiant floor heating doesn't take up any space. It's incredibly comfortable. And if anyone's ever been to Carmel in the summertime, it seldom goes above 68 degrees, so we don't need cooling. And so for those reasons, radiant's incredibly popular. But with the Active House simulations, and just it shows kind of the glaring difference between trying to blow warm air on somebody or cool air on somebody as opposed to heating or cooling a large object. It really is a fantastic difference.
Yeah.
And Active House now again, the great thing about Active House is they don't force you to do it, but they are evaluating your level of ambition of how comfortable you want to be. And if you really if that's the most important thing to you, you'll spend the extra money for a radiant system.
Or you prioritize, right?
Yeah, so the other thing, Active House is not new. It's more than 10 years.
Yeah.
It's something new here because we believe it's time enough for the United States to embrace this type of
right.
But it's something in Europe, like I'm from Italy, so it's more than 10 years Active House. It's basically serving the client and give this option to the clients.
Yeah. We're getting up on our 20-minute segment. So I just I know it goes fast. Yeah. I want to make sure that we have thoroughly sort of summarized. And one thing I heard just now, and then I'll let you talk, but the thing I heard just now, which I think summarizes Active House, is if the client's priority is comfort, then the principles of Active House are available to them, and they can design around those principles and build an incredibly comfortable, like maybe a more uncomfortable experience than they ever even dreamed of.
Yes,
and some of that is actually taking place on a subconscious level, right? Comfort is maybe a nice chair or a sofa or something. But the kind of comfort that you guys are dealing with here in Active House is comforts that you may not even consciously register necessarily, but that are going to all combine to create an environment that leaves you incredibly comfortable on all levels.
That's the goal.
Right? And appealing to all the senses.
That's the goal. One last point I'd like to make during this segment is there are more than one green building certification programs. There's LEED for Homes. There's a thing called Passive House. And when I look at Active House, I see it filling a huge gap in that it's practical, it's easily obtainable. Again, it's an evaluation and a rating so that, again, what is important to the person who's paying for all this? What's most important to them? It may very well be comfort. It may be indoor air quality and health. It may very well be acoustics because they're building next to the airport or whatever it is, but they get to determine that. And then as engineers, the tools are available for us to graphically show where that particular house ends up.
Yeah.
We shouldn't leave out the architect, right? So, I mean, this will assist the architect in delivering a better product.
Yeah. I want to just touch on the acoustic for 1 second, and I know we got to wrap up, but I think also just areas of the house that doesn't necessarily have to be next to an industrial zone or a flight path. Yep. You can just create different acoustical environments within the home. So if I want to go and really chill out or listen to music or watch theater or movies or whatever, we can build an acoustical environment for that. We can create different spaces, right? So it's not just because you live next to a train track.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love the idea of health. You know, comfort is one thing, but health is something else that we don't think of as part of our experience of comfort. But really, that's the primary thing that we experience as comfort.
Yeah.
If we're diseased, that's very uncomfortable. And
Not
so,
feeling well is the ultimate in being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
But also we live in California, and fresh water consumption is something we need to start to talk seriously. And that's one good point of active house.
Yeah.
So I know probably you don't have this problem in Maine, but I tell you, we have
No,
problem
but
here.
I mean, we have clients. Yeah, so we'll talk about that part. But, yeah.
But out here in the West, and it's not just California, it's all of the Western
I
states.
tell you,
Really.
Italy these days is probably worse than California.
Sure.
Oh, really? They're having the same water issues?
Worst, actually.
Oh, great. Good
That's
times.
Italy, yeah. So
Okay, I think that's it for the moment. Again, this is Active House. If you want to find Active House USA online, activehouseusa.org. activehouseusa.org. You can look it up there. You can find the principles for Active House. You can learn more about it. You can get in touch. Is there contact information on there for somebody?
Yes.
Does that go directly to you?
for now, yes. But then don't worry, I will be.
And for the moment, I also
Thank
forgot
you,
to
Dan.
say, can you tell me what Masana does? Masana Hydronic Technologies? I skipped over that.
No, Sun Hydronic Technologies, it's a company, started this hydronic business 35 years ago in Italy.
Yeah.
It's an Italian company. It's an American company, but the origin is from Italy. And we are focusing on comfort, indoor comfort. That's because, we
Yeah, but what do you actually sell?
Oh, we manufacture radiant ceiling and wall panels.
Yep.
Could be covered by drywall, could be covered by wood,
Yep.
different surfaces. But we are focusing in controls, because I think the control is the missing part of passive and leads. So we believe the control is the way to basically give comfort to the owner of the house.
Okay.
And we are focusing commercial, residential, and Activize is perfect. It's a great product.
I believe in it. I think it is great. Let's wrap up this segment. We'll be back. Please tune in to our next segment. And you can find us on YouTube. And if you go there, please hit the subscribe button, or you can go listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Okay, we're going to wrap it, and we'll come back. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.